Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jerred Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jerred Moon here with Kyle Schrum. What's up, Kyle?
What's up?
Yeah, nice little wave. Joe, how's it going, man?
Hello.
Then we have Ashley Hicks. How you doing?
Good.
So most everyone is listening to this right now, but if everything works out correctly, because we're doing it live, if everything works out correctly, there is a video version now of this podcast, so you can see all of our smiling faces on YouTube if you want to do that. So if everything works out, check us out on YouTube. We normally publish audio only on YouTube, but we're going video. We're going to try it out, see how it goes. So that's not my only update, but I normally go last. So I'm going to throw it to Ashley. How's life?
Life's a little crazy over here. There's a lot going on, but the biggest update I just wanted to give is my medical one. And if we're friends on Facebook or Instagram, you've already seen, but praise the Lord, cancer-free as of right now, not quite out of the clear, still atypical cells. So that just means like the nuclei within my cells look a little different. And so they're still worried about it. So just every 6 months, I'll get an ultrasound. And if the nodule grows, then they will do further biopsies. But moral of the story is physicians are great, but they're still human and they make mistakes. And my first physician made a different call, and I'm just very thankful that I got a second opinion instead of getting my thyroid out and being on medication for the rest of my life. So yeah, happy to be here without cancer.
Yeah, that's huge. Congrats. That's big news. Yeah.
So just further tests with my functional medicine doctor, because obviously lethargic in the afternoon and the weight gain, still need to kind of tweak what's going on. So maybe my thyroid needs some help. But on a completely different news, I'm starting to finally walk normal after Friday's dumbbell under fiasco. That was not nice, Jerred, but you know, it's good.
Yeah, not even on H2K anymore, so I feel bad now kind of programming some of that stuff.
Monday's strength track was also pretty similar.
Just ignore me.
Spoiler alert, Jerred. Actually, I thought you were going to do a Jerred type update where you just listed two like mundane things and then be like, oh, okay, by the way, I have cancer. Like when he told us about his shake and then was like, oh, by the way, my entire family got COVID.
Yeah.
Well, okay. And I should update. I had a call with somebody recently. This isn't my full update either, but my whole family recovered from COVID. I don't know if I ever gave that part of the announcement.
Nope.
We're still hanging in suspense.
Well, it takes a while for that. I mean, my grandpa, all jokes aside, was actually hospitalized, but he pulled through and everything's good with him. So we're jumping all over the place today and having some errors here. Cool. Yeah. All right, Joe.
So apparently this is the first time I've looked great in a while. Thanks, Kyle. Got that out of your chest, off your chest right at the beginning of this before we started recording. But it looks like the Kraut movement has started in GGA.
Yeah,
oh, man.
And it's going strong.
It is very strong. So
might be getting a T-shirt out of the deal.
Yeah, it's you're not somebody until you get a T-shirt made from you.
That's it.
Inspired by you. Updates for me. Apparently, I have been brainwashed in the future here, and I've started to be a morning. I started to work out first thing in the morning now, and like early. So like I'm heading off to the gym at like 6:30 in the morning on accident now. Just like it just started happening because I mean we wake up so early here, so they don't do daylight savings here, so it's still the sun still rises at 5:30 in the morning. And by 6 o'clock, we're just waking up. I never set an alarm. I'm just waking up normal at 6 o'clock because it's bright and we also go to bed early. But I started doing that also because we had one car and Liz had to drive us both to the gym and then I would Uber home. So I'd have to go in because she had to work out before work. So I started doing that. And now I'm just kind of doing it early. And I've even started just a little sample, just a little pinch of pre-workout in my water because it is too early to make coffee. But it's like, you know how it's the Equip one. I got that because I ordered a whole bunch of protein from it and I was like, just throw this in there. And the recommended is like 1 scoop. And then after a while you start to be like, oh, I'll do 1.5. I'll do 2 this time. I'm doing like a quarter or a third of a scoop, just as like just a little bit more water. And it just forces me to drink a thing of water before I start working out. So that's what's going on for workout wise. And since the house is fully operational, I'm full on in food prep mode. And we are doing the cook once, eat all week book 2.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of put our own spin on stuff just for stuff because so that way Liz has all of her lunches packed for the week and then it's just there and it's easier. So yeah, I'm got a lot more time on my hands now because I'm working out earlier and food prep's done earlier and I'm just like hanging out.
You're like a normal person. There you
go. Well, more responsible, I guess.
All right, Kyle.
So I turned 30 on Sunday, and now my daughter is turning 2 today.
No,
and
so
lots of
sweet.
birthdays happening around here. But like my daughter turning 2 made me actually feel old. Turning 30 didn't make me feel old. But my daughter turning 2 is starting to.
2?
Yeah. Well, just time is disappearing, man. And our son just turned 4 a month ago. And so I'm like, man.
I think when your kid turns like 15, that's going to be a slap in the face.
Well, I feel like 15 is going to be like next week. Like, I feel like that's how fast it's going to go. Anyway. That's a big deal at the house. And also BCT update, did my running intervals on Saturday, and I've got a ways to go to my mile time.
I thought it was going to be a super positive.
No, I got a ways to go.
So what's the goal mile time for you?
My goal mile is sub 6.
Sub 6.
And so
5:59. All right.
Yeah. So the average pace for my intervals on Saturday, I think, was 1:38.
That's close.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah. You got to think about this differently where your first retest, you didn't even finish the mile. So your second retest is so much better.
That's true.
Well, it wasn't even a test. It was just intervals though.
Yeah. So
but when it happens,
we'll see where I actually stand on the full mile retest, because I do not believe I could keep that pace for an entire 4 laps consecutively without the rest in the middle. But anyway, BCT is still going really well, but I've got a ways to go.
That's great, man. That was basically all my updates to BCT stuff. I actually wanted to report the averages because I just got most everyone reported. There are only a few who didn't. I wanted to get everyone's results from BCT, back squat and mile time, after just the first 4-week wave. So we're not talking about a full 12-week cycle here. We're actually getting closer to being done with the second, 4-week wave being 8 weeks into BCT. But I was late to collect the data. Anyway, the average squat increase, no one stayed the same who reported, and no one moved backwards, which is great because sometimes whatever that can happen. But it was an average squat increase of 23.5 pounds in 4 weeks for the back squat.
Nice.
And the average decrease mile time was 17.3 seconds. And that's across most of the athletes. There's almost 20, there's 18. So we gained 1 and lost 1 over the course since the start. So we're just at 18. I don't have to call anybody out as far as I know. They're all worried about it in the chat. They think I'm going to call them out and be like, this person quit. And there's a running joke that if you like don't try hard or whatever, you're going to just wake up and be on the strength track. So that's my threat to all the athletes in the chat.
I don't know if I should be offended by that.
I know.
It's not. No, it's just you can't be where you want to be. I just chose the tracks at random because I feel like strength is probably the most similar to what we're doing. It was not a shot at the strength track by any means. So those were the averages. Cool stuff as far as my journey. I just PR'd last night. Didn't expect to. I wasn't really trying to. I mean, you're going to once you put the weight on the bar. But we were doing singles, and my first two sets, like the 300s felt heavy. I think I opened with like 385, and I was like, that felt heavy for single. And I was like, there's no way this is going into the fours today. But then I just felt a little bit better each set. It was 6 singles, and I think it was 435 on the 4th or 5th set, which was matched my max from this cycle. And I was like, okay, well, I'll go for one more. And I was going to go for 455 because that's my lifetime PR. And then I was like, well, for matching your lifetime PR is like dumb. So you really have to go for 460, and we're not feeling 460 today. So I went 445 and went 10 pounds up from that. So that's awesome, making a huge amount of progress. And it's interesting. So we also had a 5x5 last week. So 5 sets, 5 reps, and there were different percentages. And I was looking through my Team Builder app, and there's this random report. Like, you guys have seen it. It shows the graph of like all your maxes over time, but it also does calculated maxes. And I'm fine with that because I think it's interesting. Some people don't like it, but it does calculated maxes. And there's this random spike from 2018 where my calculated max was 300 or 488 pounds or something like that. And I was like, I've never squat that. Like, why is that in here? So I had to go back to that day in 2018, and I did like 365 pounds for 10 reps. There was like a max rep squat thing in there on the hard to kill track. And I did 365 for 10 reps. And I was like, I was about to do 370 for 5. And I'm not really that competitive with other people, but I'm super competitive with myself. And I was like, Jerred from 2 years ago was repping 365 at 10 reps. You're about to do 370 for 5. How does that make you feel? This is all the internal talk. So I did 370 for 10 just to one up myself, which pushed my predicted max to 493 pounds. I don't think that these calculators are correct because I don't feel like I can lift 493 pounds. But anyway, that was a big win. So it was a pretty good week on BCT before we roll into the deload here.
Praise
And
the good Lord.
I wasn't trying to Kyle and I had a very similar update. Mine was just more positive.
Mine was about running though. So,
well,
what did you expect?
I'm about to update you on my running too. So I did, I don't know if you guys remember, but I gave the first report on BCT. I did 6 400 meters, and I was like, I could only hold one interval at a 5-minute mile pace out of the 6 400s I did. That was my update like 6, 7, 8 weeks ago on the podcast. And I was like, I have so much work to do. But we had 8 400s this past weekend, and I did all of them between 110 and 114, I think, or 113 or something like that, which are all under 5-minute mile pace. Doesn't mean I can run it yet. It just means I'm moving in the right direction, especially compared to where I was at holding around 70 seconds per 400 for 8. 8 is quite a bit. You know what I mean? Like, holding it for 2 or 3 is one thing, but holding it for 8, I felt really good about that. So I'm pretty happy where things are with BCT. I feel pretty good, and I really want to do it. So I'll keep trying hard.
As of right now, which one do you feel like you could hit first? Predicting wise, which one do you think you can hit first?
Yeah. Probably the mile.
So I would probably guess for you, but that's still.
Yeah.
Once you get to like below 520, it's probably just gonna be like 1 second better and then 1 second better.
That's what I don't know when we get to the edges of these things. Like if I was just chasing a 5-minute mile or just a 500-pound back squat, I feel like I could abandon all sense of smart training and just get it done in like 16 weeks. You know what I mean? And just be like, I'll run myself into the ground and then do it. But the fact that I have to balance both so much, I'm approaching it very differently, and I don't want to get injured. But yeah, I've just never had that weight on the bar. Like I've never had that weight on the bar. I've been close, and 5:12 is my lifetime PR for a mile. I just feel like and that was with no train. That was never like training to run a fast mile. That's what I'm doing right now, training to run a fast mile. So I feel like that's way more doable. 500 pounds. I don't know.
So I'll say something about that. Something I've been doing recently. Like I kind of take a goal and then I put it in micro goals. So like my next micro goal is 300. And so once a week after a squat session, I've already got, some weight on the bar. I'll just put 300 on the bar and then I'll get it on my back and just stand there with it for a few seconds. And I don't even attempt a rep. Like that's just not going to happen. But like, I'll just pull it off the rack and I'll just stand there for a few seconds and like, just to kind of feel that weight. And that's helping me like mentally. It's like kind of demystifying that weight for me. And so I'm just kind of like, that doesn't feel that heavy. Now, once I started squatting with it, that would be a lot different, but like it just having it on my back, it's kind of demystifying it a little bit, helping me out with that.
I'll go put 500 pounds on my back right now.
Go do it. We'll finish the podcast.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I do. I shared in the first YouTube video. I have like kind of those micro goals too, like the different levels I'm trying to get to. Mm-hmm. But I'm in level 2 on the back squat, but I didn't make there. I had to run a 5:28 to be level 2 with the mile, and I'm at 5:32. So we'll see. I'm not running another mile test for a while, a couple more weeks maybe. All right, now let me do what I was trying to do earlier. It was only ruined if you're watching the YouTube. So I'm going to try this. Wait. There. Oh, it worked for a second.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm trying to pull up the study on the screen, and
almost
apparently
you gotta be quicker than that.
I'm just going to get into the study because it doesn't want to work. All right. Apparently I don't know what I'm doing. So anyway, we're doing individualized hydration plans, improve performance outcomes for collegiate athletes engaging in in-season training. So the big picture, I put in a little bit more background information on this one, just for everybody to, there are a lot more things I want to point out in this study that have a lot more to do with the hydration in general, as opposed to just the results from the study, even though the results are very interesting. So athletes who lose as little as 1% to 2% of their body weight or their body mass through sweat loss exhibit an increase in heart rate, core temperature, muscle glycogen use, as well as a decrease in cardiac output, cognitive awareness, anaerobic power, and time to exhaustion. And there are a couple different studies proving that. What's really interesting is I didn't know that you increase your muscle glycogen use when you're dehydrated. That's very, very interesting. And we talk about, zone 2 burning fat, not wanting to always be a sugar burner. So just keeping these big picture things in mind as we go through this study about hydration. Additionally, inadequate replacement of sodium, the predominant electrolyte lost through sweat, is thought to exacerbate the decline of these factors. So everything I just stated, if you're missing, you can drink water, but if you don't have electrolytes, specifically sodium, there are going to be more problems. So the big purpose of this randomized crossover study was to determine whether a hydration plan based off of an athlete's sweat rate and sodium loss improves anaerobic and neurocognitive performance during a moderate to hard training session, as well as heart rate recovery from the session. There are 15 athletes, 9 female, 6 male, so predominantly female study, which is cool. 3 different sports. They were all around 20 years old, plus or minus 0.85 years. They were collegiate athletes who were injury-free and could exercise greater than or equal to 75% of their maximum heart rate for a minimum of 45 minutes. They were the ones who were recruited. And they, like I said, it was a crossover study. So everybody tried both protocols after a 7-day washout period. They tested attention and awareness, as well as body anaerobic power through standing long jump. And they were assessed immediately before and after a moderate to hard training session of greater than 45 minutes. And then the heart rate recovery was also measured. And just to note the 2 different groups, there was normal ad libitum hydration habits, and then there was the prescription hydration plan. And so it's NHP and PHP. And I thought that those 2 groups were the PHP was freaking, I wish someone would do that for me.
Right.
So they, they basically took your sweat and like found out if you were a light sweater, moderate sweater, heavy sweater, so how many liters per hour you lost on average. And then they actually analyzed the sweat for electrolytes and sodium loss to see how much you lost. And then they basically customized or reverse engineered your plan. This is kind of like what we're trying to do with the fuels course, just with we're doing with macronutrients. Like we test athletes and then we tell you, hey, here's possible macronutrient breakdowns when you perform specifically. But they were doing that with a lot of different contraptions for just hydration and sodium loss. And then the other group, they did take into account, but it was just more standard recommendations of sodium and water based off of just agreed upon knowledge for hydration. So that is it. In overall, the big results compared to their NHP, participants following a PHP jumped 4.53 plus or minus 3.8 inches farther, tracked moving objects 0.36 plus or minus 0.6 milliseconds faster, and exhibited a faster heart rate recovery following a moderate to hard training session of anywhere from 45 to 120 minutes in duration. So having a very tailored new hydration plan is really important. And I would say the bigger takeaway is just hydration is important. And I have a lot more diving into like maybe how we can dial these things in for each individual athlete. But what do you guys think of the study?
The metrics that they chose, that you just mentioned is really interesting because we haven't seen how different each of those are. The fact that they did a performance one and then a cognitive one and then the heart rate one is pretty crazy to me. When was the last time we did a water challenge? I know we've done that before.
Yeah, it's been a while. Like we used to do the protein and water challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now we should kick it off again.
I'm pretty sure it was 2018.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
We
need to get back on that.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see that they gave the athletes their choice of whatever beverage they wanted, whether it was water, Gatorade, other sports drink, but then they added more salt to Gatorade, basically meaning that Gatorade doesn't really, I mean, we've already said that kind of been against those big time sports drinks anyway, but for anybody that's using Gatorade to, hey, there you go, refuel your the electrolytes, they had to add salt to it in order to meet the parameters to actually rehydrate people anyway. So that was kind of interesting. Yeah, it was. Oh, but one of the sports they used were lacrosse players. Just wanted to say that. So to get that one out there. And I thought the study could have used a third group because they had one that was the really intense measuring everything, one that was just you do you. I feel like they should have had like a middle ground to see, okay, give them some sort of a loose hydration plan, but not customized, because we're not going to get this customized plan like they do, but maybe just a loose guidance of, hey, you should have about 8 ounces every 15 minutes. Like they should just have them do 6 to 8 ounces every 15 minutes during their thing. And then the customized people do that. And then the other people just do nothing. That would have been interesting just to see if there was any correlation between how customized could be better, or if just adding that a little bit more would help. But either way, it was really cool to see that breakdown.
So I was just going to say, the thing that stuck out to me the most was they talked about how the collegiate athletes had only 9% of them had any sort of clue of like what they should be, not just hydration, like micro and macronutrients. They talked about that. So it just blew my mind that, you're a collegiate athlete and you don't even know how to eat correctly, let alone hydrate correctly. But I mean, if I look back at what I ate when I was in college, I mean, it makes a little bit of sense, but one would think that maybe like the programs that they were in would give a little guidance as to, hey, let's follow these food guidelines or whatnot. And then we talked about Gatorade, and the amount of Gatorade they had was 32 ounces of Gatorade. Like, talk about, yeah, it doesn't have salt, but my gosh, how much sugar are these people consuming just to have this Gatorade drink? So for our athletes, I think the takeaways here, hydration is important, right? And not just post-workout. What a lot of them found when they looked at their questionnaires was that they actually were semi-dehydrated before they even worked out. So you need to worry about your hydration throughout the day, but obviously pre-workout, that is still as important, I would say, as post-workout. And then just a few things that we use to give people if you want to supplement electrolytes, which I think a lot of you should. Noon is a great tablet that we use, and you just stick it in some water. Looky there, Jerred got his
Yeah, I
Noon.
forgot to look at how much they had, the sodium or whatever.
This one has 300 milligrams of sodium.
And then another one we use that my functional medicine doctor recommended is called Electrolyte Supreme. And it's only sweetened with some stevia and some monk fruit. So it's more natural. And then it's got some beetroot in it too. So we also talked about the power of beets. So anyways, those are some recommendations from me.
I think the every 15-minute rule was pretty interesting from them. And this was like during the training session and they actually gave them a marked water bottle, and they got them specific water bottles and marked on there, okay, every 15 minutes, this is how much you should have drank. And so I think that's a good takeaway for people as well during your training sessions. If you can I know you can buy water bottles that are already marked that way. My wife has one that's kind of marked off like, by this time you should have drank this much, and by this time, but they actually, I think, just took like markers and just said, all right, during this 15 minutes, this is where you should be. This is where you should be. And so I think that would be a good way to kind of train yourself to drink the proper amount of water during your training sessions. And, maybe after time, you wouldn't even have to have one that's marked. You're just drinking it like you should anyway. But I thought that was helpful. And going back to what Ashley was talking about with kind of hydration and nutrition not being common knowledge. Like, we feel that it should be, of course, in the general population, we feel that way, but I think at different levels of collegiate sports, like, you have maybe some more literacy when it comes to that. I think you especially would have specific programs that are like doing meals and doing hydration and stuff for their athletes and stuff, like, at bigger schools, they can afford that kind of program and afford that kind of stuff. But I still don't know how much they're actually teaching their athletes about that. Maybe it's just, hey, we do this for you, just do what we tell you to do and you stick with it. So I don't know if they're actually still teaching their athletes the importance of that, but it is incredibly important. And when you look at the results of the study, proper hydration, it literally improved their performance. Like, this wasn't just something that was just kind of a rate of perceived effort, or, some of them improved, some of them didn't. Like, proper hydration actually improved their performance for everybody. And so you're leaving reps on the table, you're leaving performance on the table by not focusing on it and not doing it the right way. So it's absolutely something that you should be focused on.
Yeah, both mental and physical performance, as well as recovery,
Right.
Mhm.
And it was interesting. I pulled about 3 or 4 statements from the study, and they linked to a lot of other studies, which makes some of these statements even more impactful. But they're a little bit taken out of context. But one of them was, based on these numbers, many commercially available sports drinks do not supply enough sodium to replace the amount lost through sweat for many athletes. And so they were looking at Gatorade specifically, which I've mentioned this before. I mean, Gatorade is just not a great, it's not good for a lot of reasons. Just let's get away from the sugar. The amount of electrolytes is kind of dumb. Like, there's just not enough in there. And so it's really just it's like a juice. It's like an adult juice, like kids drink juice. It's kind of like that. It's just a good drink. That's why you want it. It's really not helping you do anything else. I mean, there are time and place where it could be beneficial, but you might be able to do things in a different way and see better results. Another one I pulled from the study said, when athletes rely on the sense of thirst alone, they do not voluntarily drink enough fluid to prevent the occurrence of dehydration during exercise. And this is where, auto-regulation. I always talk about how I don't believe in auto-regulation for nutrition or for hydration, because people just aren't good at it. They're just not good at auto-regulation in general. And so you don't know when you need to drink, and you probably aren't drinking enough sodium. And then I was trying to get numbers. I was trying to pull it from studies. I looked at a bunch of other studies, like how much sodium are we talking about? So they were adding, to get up to 1,000 milligrams, they would add 520 grams of sodium chloride to Gatorade G2, so lower sugar, which already has 480 milligrams, to get people up to almost a gram. And it's really, really hard to find a concrete amount. Like I couldn't find how much you should have. But some of the general recommendations were, around this 400 to 700 milligrams of sodium for about an hour's worth of exercise. But there are just so many factors. I think that's why it's hard for even science to give you a robust or like a concrete recommendation, because you could be different. Like I know for a fact I would put myself in the category of men who sweat like in the middle, maybe to lower. Like I think I don't sweat a ton, but I know some guys, I've had training partners in the past who we start warming up for the workout and they've already sweat more than I will sweat probably the entire training session that we're together. And Kyle was raising his hand. Yeah.
I was like, I'm pretty sure I outsweated you when
Yeah.
we worked out together.
Mhm.
Yeah, because like I can finish if it's a moderate temperature outside, and like I can finish a workout and not sweat. Like I've had people comment on that before, like, did you actually work out? Like, yeah, I did. So it normally is a heat thing that makes me sweat a lot. And I don't know why that is. I think it's what they're getting at is just kind of a genetic thing. It has nothing to do with fitness or anything else. It's just genetic. So I don't think I probably have to consume as much as other people. But the biggest takeaway I wanted for people was the sodium. You probably need a lot more salt than you realize, but it's also kind of this like touchy topic because, a lot of the mainstream information out there is the correlation between blood pressure and sodium, and that's been disputed and everything. But I'm not a doctor, so I'm not getting into how much sodium you should be taking. But if you are an athlete exercising regularly, you probably need more sodium around that session than you would think, more than, because if you're just drinking water, it's not going to get it. And I also made me realize I don't drink water at all. I don't know about you guys. Like I don't bring water into my training session, and I don't drink any water during my training session. So I drink water before and I drink water after, but I don't touch water during. Do you guys drink water during a session?
I do a little bit. I take a swig every now and then, but I'm not like chugging water. I'm not, and especially if I'm running, I don't drink water at all.
Yeah, it's hard.
I just don't want it sloshing around in there. But
yeah.
But that's if if I'm just lifting or something, I might take a swig every few sets or something.
That's one thing I actually wanted to hit on too, is that like I put on notes that I used to drink some water and I bring it out to the gym, but I realized that, it's sloshing around and it might upset my stomach and it just wasn't needed. And our training sessions are within an hour, and I don't think I can sweat enough within that hour to really, really need it. And looking at the study, their collegiate athletes doing their practice for 90-minute sessions, which are going to be intense.
And pads and helmets or whatever too, that increases your sweat.
Yeah. And like at soccer field, I think I would sweat way more running around the field than I would just doing a regular gym workout. So that's a little caveat for this. And so we're not saying that you need to hydrate every 15 minutes, because that's not exactly what we're doing. But we're also on top of our hydration throughout the day. That's something that definitely make sure to do throughout the day, so that when I do get to my workout, I don't need to worry about the water. I'm already hydrated. And another thing that we read, I think we did it in a study a while back, and a book that I read, that endurance athletes don't drink water as much during their events because it messes with their body temperature, which also affects their conditioning. So that when they drink water during, their run times were actually slower because it was affecting their internal body temperature. Because like as you're running for a long time, your body temperature raises, but it finds like a new norm when it's higher. And then, but drinking water will lower it, and that causes to burn energy and stuff. But yeah, obviously, if you're doing endurance events, you need to have some, because when we were doing our Spartan races and stuff like that, we would drink our water, but also take salt tabs once an hour or something, once every 2 hours, hour and a half, something like that. Yeah.
You can also just pop those noon tabs and just chew on those too. Which
have you done that?
We've had people. No, not me, but
okay.
Or salt biscuits. Don't forget salt biscuits.
Don't forget salt biscuits.
Yeah, I don't plan on putting a noon tab in my mouth and
Yeah, no.
I
munching
think
on that.
Trampus was the one who did that because he didn't
Yeah,
know.
I wouldn't put it past him.
I think he tells that story like I didn't put it in water. I just popped it in and chewed on it. And it's like,
There you go.
No thanks.
Yeah, so drink your water and get enough salt. And how much salt you need and how much water you need is kind of, I think if you weigh yourself before and after, that's a good way to do it. If, because you probably have to do it naked in all honesty, but weigh yourself before the workout and after if you're really interested in dialing it in. I looked at Garmin has a really interesting thing. It has estimated fluid loss when it reports in your workout after you're done. And I've actually been looking at that every time I go for a run because I'm always curious as to what it thinks that I need. And on longer runs, it's like you need 23 ounces of water. You lost probably 23 ounces of water during that run. And I'm like, I could probably agree with that. So I don't know. I mean, a lot of what Garmin does seems to be backed by science and they work with other organizations to look at this thing. But that a lot of people I know listening to this have a Garmin. So maybe it's something you haven't seen before, but when you look at the results, it has an estimated water loss that you can check out and then get that sodium as well. So stay hydrated, my friends. There you go. All right. Topic time.
All right, another topic.
Another Joe topic.
Another Joe topic.
Joe topic that I wasn't asked about until like an hour before we got onto this thing. So we want to talk about this week are fitness lies or myths that you have been told over the years that are just completely wrong. Somebody was just BSing, somebody didn't know what they're talking about, or just media being the media. So fitness lies. And I think we're just going to do a round robin. I'm just going to start with a fun one that is complete BS that I wanted to believe, and I still tell myself that. And there was this guy on my last deployment back in 2012, and after he was like a big guy, he was really strong, but after he'd work out and have his protein shake, he would eat gummy bears. And I was like, why are you eating gummy bears? And you're just saying the sugar in it helps your body process the protein better. So it'll absorb better. I'm just like, awesome. I love gummy bears. So I'm going to start eating some gummies. Sold.
I don't even need to hear the bro science. Just tell me to eat some gummy bears.
Yeah.
You're jacked. You're eating gummy bears. It's over.
Exactly. That's how Instagram works. And this is pre-Instagram. So
yeah, that's basically Instagram.
Yeah. All right. Who wants to go next?
I think you should pick, Joe.
Oh, I don't know. Okay, let's go Ashley.
So mine is females shouldn't lift weights. I was told that. And I don't even think it was like a trainer or anything. It was just a lady that was in the gym with me at one time. And I was just saying that, I have no idea how to lift. This was pre-CrossFit, so pre me actually getting into lifting. And she was like, yeah, females shouldn't lift weights. It's just bad for them. So that's one which always ties into lifting weights make you bulky. So, yeah. And make you more manly. That's another one that a lot of people, or I even heard females like within the CrossFit community that I was in that said, oh, well, I will only deadlift this much weight, or I will only back squat this much weight because if I go up, I don't want to look like a man. And I know that I'm going to start looking like a man if I get, if I do more weight.
What's crazy is I read recently, it was either 50 years ago or in the 1950s. I can't remember which one it was. Women were not allowed in the weight room without permission from like men or the staff of gyms. It may have been 50 years ago because I don't think there were really gyms in 1950s. So pushing it to 1970s is possible where there's maybe a little bit more extreme sexism going on and stuff. But I thought that was a ridiculous fact. And so the fact that a stigma like that is still around is crazy because that may have been the thought back then, like, maybe it wasn't out of like, a man thinking a woman is inferior. Maybe they actually thought it was, going to protect them somehow. But then that got all the way to 2015. And I don't know when you heard that or 2010 or whatever. And people were like, yeah, you shouldn't lift weights. And you're like, all right. I don't know why, but it sounds cool or whatever. It's crazy how these ideas evolve over time.
My turn.
Yeah.
All right. I was going to say If you want to lose weight, you need to run a lot because running makes you
But
lose weight.
It's not untrue.
Well, what I heard was like, that's the one thing you need to do.
Right.
Is you need to run a lot more. So like, that's the one thing that's going to make you lose weight, not the
Nutrition side of it.
horrible diet that you have or really poor sleep habits or things like that.
Yeah.
That's
So
it.
I don't have a bunch, so maybe I'll just chime in on what you guys have. I actually only wrote down one. This one was actually challenging for me because here's my real, maybe I'm too, I give everyone the benefit of the doubt, but even when I hear bro science sometimes, and that's what I call like when you're learning from other gym goers, like back in the day, it's just like you're with a training partner, or there's the dude who's always in the gym or who's jacked eating gummy bears or whatever. That's how bro science, gets. And he may have heard something that was correct when whoever said it, maybe someone was like, they were smarter and they had a reason for eating gummy bears, and he just misinterpreted that and thought it had to do with some sort of like a protein reason. But anyway, I think that there's always like a little bit of merit to these lies, but they're normally out of context, like grossly out of context. And I feel like that's what happens in nutrition a lot of times. And that's why people get so polarized, is because they'll hear something and they'll take it out of context to a truth, which isn't what you should do. It's always like, well, I don't know if that's true. Let's put it in the context of what the hell we're talking about. But the one that I think is very prevalent, I've gotten in arguments about in recent history, is just intensity. That intensity is what you need for results. And I think, I don't need to like beat that topic down, but we know that that's not true. That's not how you build fitness. It's not, you don't need to be super high intensity all the time or anything. But if you go to like a boot camp class in your local area or something like that, it's going to be a bunch of overweight, middle-aged men and women with a trainer who's like forcing them all to like try as hard as they can, be super intense, and trying to get them results. And it will work short term, but you end up like screwing their metabolic system up, making them hate fitness, which is probably the bigger issue. And so this whole idea that intensity is what will get you results. Like I said, in context, there is truth to intensity being the reason people can run faster, lift more weights or whatever, but it doesn't mean intensity equals results. It all has to be put in context. But I think that the intensity piece has been grossly overstated in most fitness industry in almost all realms of fitness. So you don't have to be intense.
The next one we actually debunked, I guess, weeks ago, and that is that you shouldn't lift weights or do much after you're 40. And this was our one that was age is nothing but a number, the study that we went over, and the drop off isn't until like 65 and that's one thing. So even if think you're 40, you're not that's not over the hill. You can still work out, you can still lift weights. You might just have to focus on recovery some more, but you got a lot longer to go than 40. So don't hang it up.
I'll piggyback on Jerred's hit. CrossFit makes you stronger. That's what I was told. And, it wasn't a lie at the time because I'd never lifted weights. And so there was only up to go from when I started.
CrossFit makes weak people strong. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I definitely hit numbers and continued to do that for a couple years, but then I plateaued, which is why I'm here. So yeah, CrossFit makes you stronger is a lie.
I'm gonna go with the all or nothing mentality. That's something that I was exposed to and kind of subscribed to for a long time. Of basically when you start a new program or you start a new diet or something like that, if you fall off it, you make a mistake or something, you have two options, and that is to either start over or to just stop completely. Because once you make a mistake, then you've messed it up. And so you either have to start over and not make the mistake next time, or there's no point in starting over because you already messed it up. So you just stop. And that's a total mind game. It's a mentality that you have to train yourself to get out of. And So that's the one that I'm going to go with. The all or nothing mentality. That's not something that you should be subscribing to. Making mistakes is a human thing, and it doesn't mean that you stop. It doesn't mean that you start over. It just means that you get going from there.
I love that one. And the example I always use for people to put it in context is, where else do you do that in your life?
Right.
If you get in a fight
Right.
with your spouse, or you're like, okay, time for the divorce, we got in a fight. Sorry, I tried to maintain a perfect relationship. It's over.
Yep.
And then same with your job. You're like late to work and you're like, well, sorry guys, I got to quit. Like I was late once.
Mhm.
It's this has got to be over. Like we don't do that anywhere else in our lives except for really like health and fitness stuff. You know, we think we have to be perfect there. And I don't even know where that came from, but we don't do it anywhere else in our lives.
Right.
So like, you don't have to start a new diet or a new workout program on Monday, even though it's now
Right.
Wednesday.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mess up on Wednesday and it's like, well, I'm just going to be done and I'll start again on Monday. And then you don't start again on Monday because you've waited 5 days. So no, just start again on Thursday.
It's like, yeah, it's Tuesday. You're like, oh, damn, I got to wait.
Yeah. So this next one, actually, I've seen it go both ways, and that is about working out fasted.
This is the one where I was like, which way is he going to go in this? I don't know.
He's going both ways.
Gotcha.
There you go.
And that is, some people have told you have to have something to eat before you work out because that's your energy. That's the energy you're going to use. And if not, you're just not going to have the energy to work out. And then the other ones are, in order to lose weight, you have to work out fasted. And both of them are pretty much BS. It's basically like, I always work out fasted.
That's it.
But yeah, there's not much else. If you're doing a super long event, like again, working out more than something strenuous for more than an hour, not just being in the gym for 2 hours, you might need to eat something before. But yeah, no.
Yeah. And so your body stores a ton of carbohydrates in the form of glycogen inside of your muscles that your body can utilize for 45 to 60 minutes. No problem with our given intensity. Beyond that, endurance studies show that athletes, when they completely run out of glycogen, trained endurance athletes can operate up to 66% of their VO2 max off of fat alone. And so this is still without refueling. So you don't need food to keep performance increase. But I think losing fat, there might be some argument there. Like if you were to do zone 2 fasted, that might be a really good thing to do. I forgot, I can't remember the name of the guy we had on the podcast, but if you can empty out your glycogen stores or keep them relatively low and you're fasted, then your body will probably want to revert to fat given your intensity level in training. So I think that there is a little bit, like I said, in the right context, it's true, but how many different things do you have to have dialed in as an athlete to benefit from what the hell I'm talking about? Like I know when my glycogen stores are low because I'll go really intense and I will hit a wall in 15 minutes. I'm like, oh yeah, I've been eating enough carbohydrates. But how are you going to know that unless you're like really on top of like testing these things and all this other stuff? So yeah, I think there's some merit to this fasted, not fasted training, but it has to be in the right context to be true.
The next one I'll just do kind of two together because they kind of go hand in hand. You need to work out more in order to lose the weight. So I had lots of people who would do a workout, like let's say did a CrossFit workout and say, well, I had X, Y, and Z for dinner last night and it was terrible for me. So I need to add an hour run to it. So that way I can, burn, which leads me to my next one is I work out in order to eat whatever the heck I want. So
yeah, that's a bad one.
Yep. So I feel like those two kind of go hand in hand. I feel I've seen a ton, even in college, the dorm room that I lived in, there was a ton of like dancerettes or cheerleaders that were in there. And they would, depending on what they ate or if it was a drinking night, they would take this like powder that was supposed to help them lose weight. And they would be in the gym for 3 hours, like just because they were like, I got to get the elliptical, then I got to hit the treadmill, and then I got to do, bike because I've got to burn all the stuff that was bad for me the night before. So
you have to
different
confuse your body.
Machines.
Yeah, you have to confuse your body to change it up from the elliptical to the treadmill.
Anyways, these are fun girl ones.
What was the first one you stated? That was kind of two. It was
that you have to work out more in order to lose weight.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. And then
You know,
you train to eat what you want.
and I think that's excessive exercise can be a big problem too. You know, it can move people in the wrong direction. And I don't think people realize that. I mean, I even have that in my head now that I think about it. I'm doing this, trying to achieve a 500-pound back squat and 5-minute mile. And I keep thinking, maybe you should train a little bit more. Like maybe you should add a morning session in here and an afternoon session. Just because I feel like more would be better. Right. But the fact of the matter is if I achieve this, it's going to be on 1 hour or less of training per day, 6 days a week, which will be hilarious because I don't know there have been 2 guys who've done it, but I know Clink is a hardcore CrossFitter. He's working out 4 or 5 times a day, maybe 3 times a day. Maybe I'm going excessive there. It's at least 3 times a day. And that's how he did it. You know, so you feel like, is that the way to do it? I mean, maybe if you're missing on efficient training, you need to train more to make up for it, you know, so you don't miss anything. But I'm just trying to do it an hour a day. But I see that mental side of it even comes into my thinking. I'm like, maybe I should do more, but got to rein it in. Got to listen to Ashley. I'll do
it. I've got a couple that kind of go hand in hand for nutrition wise. And this is just the way that I wrote them in my notes. So I'll explain them. Changing your diet overnight helps you eat better. And then extreme calorie reduction leads to long-term success, and those kind of go hand in hand. But what I meant by that was kind of like basically overhauling your diet, just cold turkey. And, you know, like going to your pantry and throwing a bunch of stuff out, and going to your fridge and throwing a bunch of stuff out, and going from eating 0 vegetables to eating nothing but vegetables and stuff like that. It's like, I think there's a select group of people in the population that can stick to something like that. They kind of have it in their genes and their mental fortitude to stick to something like that. But that's a fast track to being worse off than you were before for most people, in my opinion. It's just not sustainable. And what I've learned about nutrition is, for the vast majority of people, it's not about quitting a bunch of stuff cold turkey. It's about making small changes over time and building habits with your nutrition. And that's something I had to learn personally as well, because I tried a bunch of different things as well, of like, well, I'm not eating this anymore, and I'm not eating this anymore. And like 2 or 3 weeks later, I was eating more of that stuff than before, because I had just tried to quit cold turkey, and I'm not a cold turkey kind of person. And so what I found is, busting that myth, is that for most people, you need to build habits over time. And so change a couple of small things in your diet and learn to stick to those things. And once you've mastered those 2 things, then change something else and then stick to that, and just make habit changes instead of just trying to quit a bunch of things all at once.
And I've said it before, habit formation is a messy process.
Mm-hmm.
And like this, I'm really good at drinking water now. I drink enough water probably almost every day. It'd be unless traveling's like the only thing that can screw me up sometimes. But that wasn't just like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to start drinking more water and that'll just be good. It was just like, for me, habit formation to the level of true habit, like I don't need to think about it. It just kind of happens. I really feel like it takes like a year of me. And it's just basically like a year of me screwing up, and then it eventually clicks. That's like how most of my habits have been formed. It's like, I do great for 2 weeks, and then I forget for a week, and then I get, okay, then I did great for 3 weeks. It is just this messy process. But I know what Kyle just said, that nobody's perfect. I'm just going to keep chipping away at this thing until eventually I'm not thinking about it anymore. And that's what a habit truly is. This like checklist of I did this 78 days in a row doesn't mean it's a habit. Habit means automatic, right. Means you're not thinking about it anymore. And it just, you can stop thinking about it. You can stop tracking how many days you did something because you just do it. It's a habit. And so it takes a long time, I feel like, to get to true automatic process with a lot of the things we're talking about.
That's all I got.
That's all I have too.
Yeah,
I was going to say I don't have any more.
Cool. Who's got the workout?
Great question.
So the workout this week is backbone. It's one of my favorites because I've never done it. Backbone It's 5 rounds of 1,000-meter row for time. In between each one of those, you're going to rest for 2 minutes. And after you do those 5 rounds, you're going to end the workout with 50 barbell thrusters at 135 pounds or 95 pounds or 75 pounds or just whatever weight you choose to do. So there you go.
Thrusters, that's the real backbone part of the workout.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's where the backbone comes in.
We have a lot of workouts with 1,000-meter repeats.
What was that? You chopped out for a second.
Oh, so we have a lot of workouts with 1,000-meter repeats, and that's just mean.
Yeah. Well, 2,000 people don't try. If you have it's too far for people to try. So 500 to 1,000 is just enough for people to keep the effort there.
You right.
Yeah.
Wow. It's going to be the fastest 2 minutes of your life. I'm just going to say that. This one gets you. So,
That's what.
okay.
Yeah.
So my suggestion is try and sustain the same pace for each of the 5 rounds. Now, I'm not saying sandbag. I'm saying try and get the same pace. So try and go out each of the 1,000 meters because it is a time trial each time for the 5 rounds. And then I'll just touch on for females for the thrusters because I feel like if you want a female doing 135-pound thrusters, I feel like technically it should be 95 for a female, 65, and then 45.
We should probably go review every MYS workout I've written and just put some more guidance in there for some of these things.
Yeah, it's and then the last thing, jams, something with a beat is what helps me for rows or any sort of cardio. So yeah, and just the thrusters, just you got to ignore the pain that's going on. You just got to keep going. Try and get all of them without dropping the barbell.
Fortunately, your legs are not going to be smoked for those thrusters after all that rowing, except
I was like, are you being serious?
They will be. Something I'll say as someone who has not done this workout, but is looking at it right now. When you get to those 50 thrusters at the end, you're going to be smoked. You're going to be tired. Make sure that you're doing a weight that you can keep good form with the thrusters because, the workout is called backbone and you could lose your backbone if you're doing these thrusters
come right
the wrong
out.
way. Yeah, it's just going to pop right out. I was going to say you're going to walk away without one, but I guess you can't walk away without a backbone. But make sure that you're doing, in all seriousness, make sure that you're picking a weight for this where you're able to do those thrusters the right way. Do them with proper form, and you're going to be tired. So your form's you're going to want to compromise on form. So don't go crazy when you're feeling fresh before you do anything and say, all right, I'm going to do a high weight for this. And then at the end, you start questioning everything. And yeah, do proper form for your thrusters.
Yeah, I would probably. So I actually just updated it in Team Builder with the female standards. So they are there now. And I would say since you have that 2-minute rest between the thrusters, definitely rest.
The rows?
Rest good. Yeah, that's what I meant. There you go. Don't be afraid to go fetal in between your rests. But I would probably, for attacking this for the thrusters, break them up into probably 5 sets of 10 if I could. 10 might be really challenging, but set that down and take a breath in between. And I know Jerred's probably just going to say, just get them done as fast as you can. But
sort of what Ashley said, actually.
Yeah, basically what you guys said. I would take those breaths and breaks in between. It's getting a little late. Yeah. Take breaks, not too many. I'm done.
Take breaks, not many done. All right. I pretty much just agree with everything Ashley said for this one. Sustainable and repeatable on the 1,000 meters. I would make it a slightly painful, sustainable and repeatable, but because that's the negative side with sustainable and repeatable is you could do really slow and be able to sustain and repeat that pace. So max sustainable and repeatable is what I would say. So, not your PR pace, but maybe 90% of that, because you can hold that for multiple rounds. And then I thought the barbell thrusters were unbroken. I thought that was the whole backbone part of this.
No.
Maybe I was just thinking in my head when I wrote it, but yeah. So shoot for the barbell thrusters to be unbroken, or 2 sets. 3 okay, that's fine. 4, what are you doing? 5, come on. No, I'm just kidding. You break it up however you want to, but I would say shoot for that first set to be as many thrusters as you can, and then go to game plan after that. Go to all right, I'll break this up.
Having Cow Zoo flashbacks on that one.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. I mean, you get rest. You can hold. You don't have to continually move on a thruster. You can hold the bar over your head and rest.
Shoulders.
You can hold it in basically the front squat position and rest in the bottom. So
rack, not front squat. Oh, you want to rest all the way down?
Well, that's no, I'm not. That's what I mean. Like all the way squatted down. You can't rest just standing there. You're doing nothing. So either down in the squat or weight overhead.
You're not holding the weight. You're just doing nothing.
Yeah. No, it's just, you're just there. You're just crumpled down.
It's not like we have those programmed in.
Yeah.
Every once in a while.
So yeah, that's my take on it. Always here to give you the meet yourself slant to the exercise.
We appreciate it.
All right. That's it. Hopefully our first video podcast went okay. You guys are on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more of this. Our guns up. And that's it. If you want to get involved in the training, go to garagegymathlete.com. Sign up for a free trial. You can try all this out. We have a lot of different training tracks, and we'd love to have you be a part of the community. If you are already a part of that awesome community, thank you so much for being there and engaging and being awesome. That's it. Let's get out of here so Joe can get some sleep. Thanks for watching or listening. Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.